Okay, day 9. To quote the least talented musician in every ska band, let's pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. All right, that's me. Let's get right to it. Question 1. The fictional small town of Haddonfield, Illinois is the primary setting for what film series, which kicked off in 1978 and whose convoluted course of sequels continued in 2021 and is scheduled to end in 2022? There will be people who get this cold off of Haddonfield, Illinois. If that's you, awesome. What I suspect was the more traveled way to this answer was to rephrase the question as, what film franchise opened in 1978 and has continued to create sequels through to today in various forms? So Star Wars started in 1977, and unless Haddonfield is a town on Tatooine, I don't think that fits. If you got as far as thinking it was a horror film franchise, well, that's the first big step. Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all plausible, but the Halloween franchise, the one that gave Jamie Lee Curtis her own career as something other than the celebrity spawn of Janet Leigh and Tony Curtis, is finally wrapping up its spectacular run this year. Allegedly. Question 2. What early high-level computer programming language, an all-purpose symbolic instruction code aimed at beginners, was developed in 1964 at Dartmouth College by John Kemeny and Thomas Kurtz? I could go on about this being a Gen Xer question, again, or some such, but honestly, if you didn't grow up learning BASIC as a computer language, if you either learned how to actually code in those coding schools that every kid is now in from the age of like 6 months before birth, then this might have been a more difficult question. I'd feel bad for you, but if your first language was Perl and your second is English, then you're starting further up the track than I'll ever reach, and you're gonna be fine. If you grew up typing 10 print boobs, ha ha ha, 20 go to 10, like I did, then congratulations, in more senses than one, you basic. Question 3. American Flo Hyman was considered one of the greatest players in the world in what sport when she was tragically felled by a ruptured aorta caused by Marfan syndrome during a match in Japan in January 1986. Okay, some of you might remember the story of Len Bias, the college basketball star who'd been drafted by the Celtics in the first round and then died of a heart attack in 1986 after a cocaine binge. Well, on the face of it, Flo Hyman, who died earlier that year, also of a heart malfunction, looked to have had a similar fate. The one crucial difference was that Hyman had Marfan syndrome, a disease that affects tissue growth. People with Marfan's tend to be taller and thinner. Hyman was 6'5", but it does increase the chances of there being heart irregularities, among other things. Flo Hyman didn't know she had Marfan, so she pushed herself hard all the time and didn't even know to get herself checked for it. She was a huge star in volleyball, and since there wasn't a pro league in the US, there still isn't, she went to Japan to play professionally, and she excelled there. She was legitimately a star. Her death was a shock, and probably would have made a bigger deal here if Len Bias didn't steal that particular corner of the sports pages from her a few months later. I think Marfan's is tested a lot earlier and more regularly than now, but especially if you're taller than most people, get yourself checked. You should do that anyway. Question 4. An Italian poet born in 1783 with the first name of Gabriele gave his last name to his famous English-born children Dante Gabriel, who helped found the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, Christina Georgina, among the most prominent poets of her day, and William Michael, an acclaimed critic and editor. What was that last name? Some questions have one way in, and you either get there or you don't. This one, wow. Even if you didn't know they were all related, a poet named Gabriele, artists and writers named Dante Gabriel, Christina, and William, all of whom share what last name? You get a lot of kicks at the can with this one. Or so I thought. It turned out the get rate on this was minuscule. Okay, a primer in 30 seconds. Google this stuff if you want more info. This is nothing like a comprehensive thing. Dante Gabriel Rossetti was a painter. He had a distinctive style. It looked to me like sensual stained glass. I'm still not sure what the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood is, but he seems to have been the main force in that movement. Christina, his sister, might have been the greatest female poet writing in English in the 19th century. Elizabeth Barrett Browning fans, Emily Dickinson fans, I'll let you fight it out. Her Christmas carols, especially In the Bleak Midwinter, are holiday standards now, and she might be the most influential member of the entire family. I'll link to some of her poetry below. Also, this isn't our first Cheers reference this season, but one Halloween, Frasier Crane and Lilith went to a party as Dante and Christina Rossetti, and that year their son went to that same party as Spider-Man. Question 5. U.S. airmen pursuing release from active duty during World War II claiming mental instability are deemed ineligible as such a request demonstrates their mental fitness. This scenario is central to what 1961 novel? If you're stuck on this one, read the clue again. Does it make sense? Does it? Circular reasoning and self-refuting arguments used to have such apocalyptic connotations. Now, they're just part of the landscape. There was a zine syndicate in the 1990s called the Yossarian News Service, and I checked, and it's still around, and it's making new stuff. Yay! I'll put a link below. Finally, question 6. The imperial cities of Morocco, the country's 4 historical capitals, are Rabat, the current capital, Meknes, sorry for the pronunciation, Fez, and what fourth, which in fact is the name of the country itself in some languages. Reading this question made me think of Crosby, Stills, and Nash's song The Marrakesh Express. I suppose if I thought of Casablanca, I might have considered that, although I did consider Tangier. There was a non-zero chance I might have put that down. And they say Americans have no idea about African geography. We don't. Not nearly like we should. Let's work on that, okay? See you tomorrow!